What's going on, guys? So about 2 months back, I made a video essay on one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Angel, the series, which is a spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I made that video for basically two reasons. Number one is that while searching for some video essays on Angel, I didn't really find any, but there were tons and tons of videos on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I love both shows, but I really wanted to watch a video about Angel. And since there weren't any, and since I do YouTube, I felt this responsibility in me to make an Angel video essay. I'm like, if it doesn't exist, I'm going to make it exist. And I put the video out. And the second reason was because I was currently in the middle of an Angel rewatch, and I was actually showing it to my girlfriend for the very first time. We watched Buffy first, and then we watched Angel, and we just wrapped up the show about a week or two ago. So I finished a complete rewatch of Angel. And that video actually did really, really well for my channel. So I want to say thank you to everybody that watched it. It was a lot of work to put together and to get it out there. So thank you guys very, very much for giving it your time and checking it out and enjoying it and talking about your love of the series too, and the people that like Angel more than Buffy as a series, or what Angel meant to you and its themes of redemption and trying to be a better person over time, as well as all the character arcs that really resonated with people. Wesley's especially for many people, but also Cordelia's, Gunn's, Fred's, all of those characters. Thank you everybody that contributed to helping that video do really well. So I'm hoping that this video finds the same audience, because now that I have finished my rewatch of Angel, and with that video doing fairly well, I thought, let's do another massive Angel video. And I wanted to go as crazy as possible. So I am going to rank every single episode of Angel, the series, in this video from worst to best, in my opinion. Everyone's opinion is going to be different, and everyone's rankings would totally be different. And there are 110 episodes to go through, but I feel like I know the series well enough that I could kind of stack them where they make the most sense to me and give you my definitive list after rewatching it now for probably, I don't know, the 12th, 13th, 14th time in my life. So here we go. This is ranking every single episode of Angel, the series. Now, even though it is one of my favorite shows of all time, that does not mean that I love every episode, and there are a couple episodes that I absolutely can't stand. And so coming in at dead last is Season 5, Episode 13, Why We Fight. Now, there are several reasons why this is my least favorite episode, but let's just start with the episode itself. I think it's very bland. It's really boring. Most of the series, they try to flesh out Angel's story and the things he was doing after he had gotten a soul and before he showed up on Buffy for the first time. And we have this really weird storyline where an early version of the Initiative forces Angel to go down into a submarine and help the survivors get back to the surface during World War II. And Spike is in there, and he's wearing a Nazi uniform because he ate a Nazi, and there's like other characters there. And what Angel has to do is he's ultimately forced to have to turn the captain of the ship into a vampire, or else they're going to die, and he's the only one that can pilot the ship to get them back up to the surface. So he essentially has to, destroy somebody, take away someone's soul, turn them into a vampire, and that's the only way they can be rescued. And then the other part of the episode is that vampire coming back now in present day, and he captures Wesley, Fred, and Gunn, and then Angel eventually kills him. It's like, on paper, that's not a terrible concept, but the execution is incredibly boring. But the thing about this episode that makes it my least favorite, the real thing about this episode that makes it my least favorite, other than it being incredibly boring, is where it takes place in the series. Because this episode is smack dab in the middle of 3 of the best episodes of the entire series. It's right after You're Welcome and right before Smile Time and A Hole in the World. And those 3 episodes are all in my top 10. I'm just going to spoil that for you now. And so this episode totally breaks the vibe. It totally breaks the momentum. And what could have been probably the best run of singular episodes in the series is absolutely ruined by this standard paint by numbers, boring ass episode. But the thing that really makes it my absolute least favorite, the number one thing, and spoilers obviously throughout the entire series, is that this episode takes place right after the episode where we find out that Cordelia is dead. After they bring Cordelia back for one singular episode in season 5, they kill her off. And this episode should have been the other characters dealing with that. The thing that pisses me the fuck off about this episode is that we never get to see any of the other characters besides Angel react to Cordelia's death. We don't see how it affects Wesley. We don't see how it affects Gunn. We don't see how it affects Fred or Lorne or anybody else. Nobody else mentions it. Nobody else talks about it. It's never brought up again until the final episode. And we just completely skirt over the monumental fact that Cordelia, a main huge character in the series, died the previous episode. And you don't mention it at all. You just do some bogus side story that has nothing to do with the overall main plot, and we don't get to see how any of the other characters respond to it. That, I think, is probably the most offensive thing the series has ever done, is not just kill Cordelia off, but not have any character react to it, and instead throw this, because as soon as you finish your welcome, you're like, oh my God, Cordelia just died? Like, what's going to happen? And you go to the next episode, and it's this dog shit. Terrible, terrible, terrible episode. Worst episode of the series. Also, I promise I won't take that long on every episode, but there are particular ones that I have stuff to talk about. So at my number 109, least favorite episode is got to be season 1, episode 13, She. And just the same as the last one, I find this episode to be incredibly boring. This was during the time where in season 1, admittedly, Angel was kind of finding its footing and the show didn't necessarily know what it wanted to be yet. And so there was a lot of weekly kind of demon of the week, case of the week to solve scenarios where it took on more of like a detective noir vibe of Angel as this investigator and figuring out these supernatural going-ons. And She is just basically about this demon chick that comes from a super oppressive world and Angel helps her out. Like, it's fine. I mean, the standout is the dance sequence in the beginning of the episode, inside Angel's head of why he doesn't dance. But besides that, it's just a pretty boring standard episode. In my 108 spot, I have Angel Season 3, Episode 12, Provider. This is another episode that I just find to be boring. This happens shortly after Connor is born, and there's a few episodes in between the birth of Connor and before the big dramatic, kidnapping of Connor, where the characters are just kind of hanging out, and there's a couple standard episodes. And this one is where the Angel team is trying to get as many cases as they can so that they can start earning money now that they have this baby to provide for. But I really just don't like this episode. I don't know. I just don't like how the entire point of this episode is like, we need to make money. And the overall plot line is kind of dumb. But it does have a supporting character played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Way before he was Negan from The Walking Dead, he showed up in Angel. So, yeah. In my 107 spot is Season 2, Episode 13, Happy Anniversary. This is, again, just an episode that I find bland and boring. This is about a scientist that has discovered a way to freeze time, and Lorne gets a premonition that time is going to stop, and he goes to get Angel to help him. This is in the time period where Angel is kind of working on his own, and then Cordelia, Gunn, and Wesley, are doing their own thing on the side. I do like the little team up with Angel and Lorne because it's one of the first times that we put Lorne in like a main character position in the show, but I don't give a single crap about this like nerdy scientist guy that wants to freeze him having sex with his ex-girlfriend or soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. Like, it's just like, I don't know, it feels very much like a filler episode, and I think that's what it is. In my 106th spot is Season 5, Episode 9, Harm's Way. Now, this may be controversial to some people, but I never liked Harmony. I think a couple of things that she does is funny, and I guess I do like how she kind of feels like a Season 1 Cordelia in Season 5, but she's never really been a character that I gave too much of a shit about. And the thing that's so frustrating about season 5 for me, because you will hear a lot of fans of Angel say that season 5 is their favorite. And I can understand that from one perspective, because I do think that season 5 has a handful of some of the best episodes of the entire series. But I think besides those 5 or 6 episodes that are the pinnacle, I think that a lot of the season has really lame episodes like this one. And it's just one that I just don't care for. Harmony's little adventure. I do think it's funny that she thinks she accidentally killed a guy and then like wraps the body up and like puts it in the dumpster and everything. But besides that, it doesn't do anything for me. In my 105 spot is another season 5 episode, season 5, episode 6, the cautionary tale of numero cinco. I know there are massive defenders of this episode, and I get how this character in his old age kind of relates to how Angel is feeling in the series at this point in time. But overall, again, it's just one of those episodes that I don't really care for. That, you know, it feels like an episode in the way of better episodes that are right around the corner. In my 104 spot is season 1, episode 4, I Fall to Pieces. Like I said, when Angel was beginning as a series, it was really kind of trying to find its footing and what kind of a show it wanted to be. And so a lot of season 1 are these singular monster of the week detective stories that Angel has to solve involving supernatural elements. This one actually involves a human character that has an ability to take off his body parts and use them independently. And so he's like super obsessed with this woman. A lot of Angel season 1 was dealing with the themes of adulthood and things that you would experience in your young adulthood, and like a woman being stalked by this guy that won't leave her alone, that sort of thing. Whereas the Buffy series up to this point, up to when Angel season 1 starts, it deals with a lot of problems that you would have as a teenager and growing up and going through high school. And Angel dealt with kind of like the young adult early single life and the problems that you would have living in a city like LA. And so, you know, that subject matter is there, and I think that that is interesting and something good that the series does. It's just this episode in particular, I just don't find all that compelling. Same thing with my 103 spot. This is season 1, episode 12, Expecting, where Cordelia gets pregnant overnight from someone spreading this demon seed into all these women. And essentially the theme is, you know, you hook up with a guy and, you know, he gets you pregnant and then either disappears or, you know, is doing the will of some creature, some giant creature in the sewer. I mean, you know, these things happen. So I like the thematic element. I like the idea of the story that we're telling, but the execution, the episode itself, just don't really care for it. In the 102 spot, I have season 2, episode 4, Untouched. There is an interesting element here. You have a woman that has these telekinetic abilities, but she also has severe trauma from her past, and those two things together definitely turns her into like a Carrie-esque character, but she's way more sympathetic than that. And she also is being basically groomed by Wolfram and Hart, or particularly Lila. And this was the part of the series where Wolfram and Hart was ramping up a lot more as a major overall antagonist, and particularly Lila, who is a character that I love. But also, this is when Angel is having all the dreams of Darla as she's kind of like slowly creeping back into her life. And yeah, it's just not that great. In the 101 spot is season 1, episode 7, The Bachelor Party. This is the one where Doyle's ex comes back and she's dating a new demon, and there is this ritual that at the bachelor party they have to eat the brains of the previous husband. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, this is another one of those where it's just kind of like a one-off strange episode. I mean, it does have a lot of humorous moments to it. Just overall, personally, just not a big fan of the episode. We're going to get to some good episodes soon, I promise. So in my 100 spot, I have season 2, episode 17, Disharmony. Pretty much the same way I felt about Harm's Way. I just like this episode a little bit better. I kind of like her dynamic with Cordelia being there, as opposed to an episode where it's just all about Harmony. I kind of like seeing Harmony and Cordelia together after she's been turned into a vampire. but overall still don't like the episode, but I like it better than the other Harmony episode. In the 99th spot, I have season 3, episode 5, Fredless. So this is an episode that I think is necessary. I think it's one of those episodes that you need to have to kind of fully cement Fred into the group. It's just overall not that entertaining to me, especially when season 3 gets so good after this. So this is one of those episodes where it's like, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, especially for Fred's character, and we get to see her parents for the first time and her figuring out that she does have a place within this group. So it's good to see, but it's just compared to all the other episodes of the show, it's just not that entertaining. Same thing with my number 98 spot. This one's called Players. This is very much in the middle. This is right after the Angelus segment of season 4 and right before the reveal of Jasmine. It's the one where Cordelia gets they figure out that Cordelia is the enemy that they've been searching for the entire time, the demonic entity that had taken over her body, and they set up a trap to get her at the end of the episode. And actually, a lot of the episode revolves around Charles Gunn and Gwen going on a little mission, and you get a handful of good fight scenes with Gunn, and it's kind of his first adventure and outing after him and Fred break up. So it's a good episode for him, but it's one of those that's just like, it's kind of like an episode that's necessary but not great. It's like we need the episode to get from point A to point B, but the episode itself it's all right. At 97, I have season 2, episode 8, The Shroud of Ramon. This is kind of a decent, fun episode. It's just kind of a one-off adventure where Angel goes undercover to stop these demon criminals from getting this Shroud of Ramon that makes everybody crazy and paranoid and pissed off at one another. And Gunn is there too, so it's a good episode between Angel and Gunn, but it's just kind of like an okay episode. So we're starting to get to the point where these are the episodes that I kind of find to be okay, just not overall great, and Shroud of Ramon is one of them. At 96, I have season 3, episode 14, Couplet. This is the one where the Gruselug comes back and Angel begins to get very, very jealous of him because Gruselug and Cordelia are now forming a strong relationship, where Angel was just kind of discovering that maybe he actually likes Cordelia. It's okay. We're in the okay territory. There is like a little too much humor going on with Angel's jealousy, but there are moments that I really like. Like, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe this is the episode where Angel and Gru are chasing a demon through the sewer, and then it breaks out into the daylight, and Angel can't chase it, but Gru can. And Gru ends up killing it, and then we have Angel kind of in the darkness, like far away from everybody, and he sees everybody in the daylight celebrating, and he sees, Gru being treated as the champion and everything, and he just can't step out into the daylight. Really good moment for his character that I like. Number 95, I have season 5, episode 11, Damage. Now, I like the premise of the episode in that at the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they awaken all of the potential Slayers to have the power of a Slayer. And you have to wonder, of all the variety of human beings out there, who would be turned into a Slayer, and could there be massively dangerous ones, like somebody that is currently in a mental asylum that is dealing with tons of trauma and can't tell reality from, or current reality from, her past, right? Somebody that's been through a lot of damage, as the episode's called. And there is this misdirect where she fights Spike, and she's imagining Spike as the person that tortured her when she was a kid. And so she's taking out all of that vengeance on Spike in the episode. And it does lead to a very good ending where Spike is basically saying, what, should I not feel bad that I wasn't the person that hurt this girl when I was the person that hurt, so many others? And it's a moment, and it's probably the first moment in season 5 where Angel and Spike have kind of like a common ground, like understanding and like appreciation of one another. It doesn't happen a lot in the season, but that one does. So really good premise, but a lot of the episode I just don't really care for that much. So it's one of those episodes where I really like the idea and I love the ending scene, but overall, again, it's an okay episode. At 94, I have season 3, episode 18, Double or Nothing. This is another in-betweener. It's an episode that you kind of have to get from point A to point B. It's after Connor gets abducted, but it's before Connor comes back older in the series. And this one deals with Charles Gunn and repercussions of a deal that he made with a demon back in the day, and now he has to face the consequences. And the thing that I like about it is that Gunn goes in to face the consequences by himself, but the Angel team comes to back him up. And this is right after everything that happened with Wesley in season 3. So it's sort of like, we lost one person and we're not going to lose another one. So I like that. I think season 3, end of season 2 into season 3 is really when the core group of Angel gets really, really cemented. And I like seeing them as a team getting each other's backs and things like that. At 93, I have season 5, episode 3, Unleashed. This is an episode about a werewolf. And it's very interesting that it took up till season 5 before we got a werewolf in a vampire show. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we had main characters that were werewolves. We had Oz, and he shows up in season 2. And it's like a usual, normal thing in Buffy. But in Angel, we didn't get a werewolf until season 5. Kind of crazy how that happened. I like Nina. I think she's cool. I wish she was in more episodes. But I think this is a good, solid, it's a good, solid, standard, basic episode. So it's not great. It's still down here at number 93, but it's okay. At 92, I have season 3, episode 20, A New World. This is the one where Connor comes back from the Kortoth dimension and he's older and he's out on the city streets of LA, kind of feeling like he traded one hell for another. And that's the part of the episode that I like, that he grew up in a literal hell dimension. And when he comes back to our dimension, the first thing he encounters are like drug dealers and people that are addicted and all the horrible things happening on the streets of LA, right? So it's like, is one world really better than the other? It's fine, and I actually like Connor as a character. I know that he can be really, really annoying, and it's not a popular opinion to like Connor. I don't like him as much as the other characters, but I do give him the benefit of the doubt because of the way that he was raised. 91, I have season 5, episode 2, Just Rewards. This is really our introduction to Spike as a main character in Angel. In season 5, this takes place after season 7 of Buffy, and so Spike dies in the final episode of Buffy, and they find a way to bring him back in Angel because he was the most popular character, and they had a show to bring him in. I do have mixed feelings about it because I do love Spike. Spike is a great character, and I love his redemption arc on Buffy, but that's the thing, is that I think his arc in season 7 of Buffy is so good and so perfect that I kind of wish they would have just left the character alone. But, they brought him over on Angel because he was so popular, and it kind of fills the void a little bit of Cordelia not being there. And I do think by the end of season 5, I think Spike really does find his place in the Angel series and does have a lot of good things to do in the show. It's unfortunate that, the show got canceled right as Spike was finally integrating, really, really well. But the first episode where he's there, this is just a huge Spike-centric episode to get him introduced, and it's fine. In the number 90 spot, I have season 4, episode 10, Awakening. This is the one where the Angel team is trying to bring back Angelus because Angel, without a soul, for some reason, may have information on the beast that Angel doesn't have because of some spell that the way it was cast or whatever. Anyways, they got to remove Angel's soul. And so they bring in this wizard character to do it. And the whole episode is a misdirect because it basically gives Angel this fantasy to give him a perfect day to allow him to feel perfect happiness, which is the catalyst for losing his soul. And Angelus is brought back at the end of the episode. The thing that about this episode is that I do like it, but it is a bummer sometimes when you have an episode that does not happen. So 90% of this episode doesn't matter because it's all a fantasy that was in Angel's head, right? And there's another episode much higher on this list that also deals with basically an entire event that doesn't matter, which is I Will Remember You. But with that, there's a tragedy to that I really love and appreciate, and a sacrifice that I appreciate. Whereas this one is let's just give Angel a fantasy and then we're going to see that fantasy. But because it results in Angelus, and I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of my favorite episodes involve a semblance of Angelus because I love Evil Angel so much. But this one, you only get him in the last 5 seconds of the episode. So it's not quite an Angelus episode, but it's the one to get us there. At number 89 is season 3, episode 19, The Price. This is the price that you pay for trying to open the Kortoth dimension, and these weird little slug creatures are coming out and, you know, dehydrating people and turning them into weird zombies before they turn into dust. Fred gets affected. It's kind of like a neat little horror episode, I would say. Nothing too great about it, nothing too special, but just better than the other ones that I've mentioned so far. Is season 4, episode 4, Slouching Towards Bethlehem. This is the one where Cordelia comes back, but she has no memory of herself. And the reason why I'm putting this episode here, I do kind of want to put it lower, but I'm going to put it here because this is really the only episode where we kind of actually get Cordelia in season 4, because as soon as they do the memory spell, that's when Jasmine takes over, and then the entire season, it's not really Cordelia, it's Jasmine in control of Cordelia's body. So even though she has amnesia here, which is like the trope that I hate most in television shows, is when a character just can't remember who they were or their past or anything. I mean, at least she's still kind of acting like Cordelia. You know, it's like the only episode of season 4 where we actually kind of get Cordelia. Season 4, episode 17, called Inside Out. Connor has been manipulated completely by Jasmine in Cordelia's body, and he brings the sacrifice, and he sees the visions of Darla trying to get him not to do it, and the confliction between him in order to do it. It's the episode right before Jasmine shows up. Overall, it does feel like one of those episodes that's meant to get you from A to B. It's kind of like an in-betweener episode, but something that you need to have. I do like the choice, the dramatic element of Connor trying to choose which way to go, and then ultimately he chooses Jasmine. But other than that scene, is this the one? Actually, I think this is also the one where they kill Skip, I think. I do like that scene too. Wesley does his like Tomb Raider jumping in the air with the guns. I have season 5, episode 1, Conviction. This is when the Angel team has to get used to now working at Wolfram and Hart, and it is a huge adjustment. I do like seeing the new set. I like the set and the look of the Wolfram and Hart offices, although I will always like the hotel more. I think the set looks really good, and they show it off in a good way. It's got an okay little plot line in it, but there is one thing in it that really bothers me, and it's when Angel like kicks the gun that the mercenary guy is holding, and then it gets kicked up, and he shoots himself in the head, and it dies. And it's sort of like, I mean, I guess Angel didn't technically pull the trigger, but it's like the only time in the show where Angel just straight up murders a human being. And although it's a terrible human being, I don't like how it's like never addressed. Like Angel never really had, like, he just kind of had a moment where he's like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to kill someone, where that was never really what he did before then. But other than that, I think the episode's fine. Season 5, episode 20, The Girl in Question. I'm conflicted on this episode because I do think it's really funny. I like the idea of Angel and Spike going on an adventure, and it involves going to find Buffy. They never actually see her and talk to her, but they're actually on a different mission. They're actually supposed to like grab the ashes or the severed head of some demon and then bring it back. It doesn't really matter because they go to a location to do this mission, but then they're distracted by the fact that Buffy is here somewhere and she's hanging out with someone called the Immortal, which is somebody that both Angel and Spike absolutely hate. And so they have a common ground finally. While this is happening, the thing I actually really love about it is that Fred's parents come to visit her at the Wolfram and Hart office, and Illyria assumes the form of Fred to trick them into thinking she's still alive, and Wesley has to, go along with it, reluctantly. And I do like how at the end of the episode, he tells her to never do it again. And knowing that, eventually in his final moments that she would. The only reason it's down so low is that I think there are much funnier episodes in the show. And also because it takes place at the very tail end of the series, it does kind of bother me that we just didn't get more of an ending. And that's not the show's fault. They didn't know they were going to be canceled. Like Buffy season 7 knew it was the final season, and so it felt final. Whereas Angel season 5 does not feel like a final season, and they wrap everything up in the last 2 episodes. Well, this is the episode before the last 2 episodes, so it really feels very out of place in the sense that the show is about to end, and this just feels like a regular episode. 84 is season 5, episode 4, Hellbound. where Spike is essentially a ghost in the Wolfram and Hart offices, and he is being what he believes dragged towards hell. And there is this entity, this spirit that has kind of been here and throwing other souls into hell so that he can still survive. And Spike is his next target. It's an all right episode overall, but the thing that I do really like about it is some of the imagery. It feels very Hellraiser. Like we see these ghosts and spirits and like mutilated faces, and it's a more like horror-centric episode, and it's a very good episode for Spike, again, getting like introduced into this cast so late into the game. At 83, I have Season 4, Episode 5, Supersymmetry. This is where Fred discovers that it was her professor that actually opened the portal to send her to the Pylea dimension, and she goes out for vengeance. I really like this episode in the sense that, you know, it's Fred definitely gaining some agency and deciding to go and do something about what had happened to her, because none of the other characters in the cast like really understand like how devastating it must have been for her to spend 5 years in a hell dimension alone. I mean, Angel does. I mean, he spent, 100 years in a hell dimension, but there's a difference between him being an immortal vampire and her losing 5 years of her young life, and also Gunn's response to it and him wanting to protect her from the idea of killing somebody and having to deal with that. And he actually ends up killing the professor first. So that causes a huge rift in their relationship. It's down pretty low because there's just a lot better episodes, but it's one of those two where the idea of the episode I think is better necessarily than the execution, but the idea is really good. At 82, I have Season 1, Episode 6, Sense and Sensitivity. This is a pretty funny episode, one of our early introductions to Wolfram and Hart, where there is this sensitivity training class for the police officers where it basically makes everybody into a whiny, wimpy, little crying person so that this mob boss can escape. And it does affect Angel at one point, which is pretty damn funny. And it's one of those early episodes of the series where it's like, we don't really know what we're doing yet, but we're just going to try something silly, and it works. Okay, so from here on up, I would say these are episodes that I genuinely like. I think we're past the episodes where I'm like, they're just okay, or they're not good, or I hate them. We're now kind of in the category where I think every episode from this point forward is pretty good. So at number 81 is Season 2, Episode 14, The Thin Dead Line. This one deals with the idea of police brutality, and in the world of Angel, where everything is supernatural, they are, of course, resurrected police officers from the dead that are doing things in a very black and white way. But since we are dealing with the streets of LA and, the upbringing of Charles Gunn and his gang and where he comes from and how he's actually kind of used to this being a thing, except now there's a supernatural element to it. And it's also the one where Wesley takes a bullet for them. Wesley actually gets shot, and he's in a wheelchair for a number of episodes after this, which is kind of crazy so early into the series, and it's before the big Wesley event that happens. And I do love how Gunn sticks up for Wesley, too, because they go to the safe house, and one of the guys there is like, oh, I don't care, white guy gets shot, I don't care. And Charles Gunn really steps up for him and says, like, you have no idea what this man has done for me and how he's gotten my back through all these battles and everything. And so I really like Gunn sticking up for him. Not a great episode, but a good episode. In my number 80 spot, I have Season 1, Episode 10, Parting Gifts. This is, of course, the first appearance of Wesley Wyndham-Pryce on Angel, and man, how different it is when you first meet Wesley. Like, thinking about the show, I'm always thinking about Season 3, Season 4, Season 5 Wesley after he's gone through a ton of character development. Seeing him here in Episode 1, I actually do find it, or Episode 10 of Season 1, but I find it really interesting that he shows up as a rogue demon hunter and is kind of pretending to be a badass going around hunting demons. But eventually, he literally becomes that. In Season 4, when he's separated from the group, he is kind of a rogue demon hunter. And at that point, he actually is kind of really badass and competent at it. So it's like, unknown foreshadowing. I'm sure they didn't know what they wanted to do with Wesley's character, but there is a a huge irony here with his introduction that I really like, considering what he becomes later on. At 79, I have season 5, episode 5, Life of the Party, where Lorne is responsible for putting on this giant Halloween festivity for Wolfram and Hart. This is just a good, funny episode. Also a good Lorne episode. There's not enough of those. I think he's a very underappreciated character in the series, and he brings a lot of levity and a lot of heart and a lot of musical flavor to the show, which is good. And this is an episode where he gets a chance to shine, and I like that. And I like the premises that he got rid of his sleep, and so his ability to tell people's future is getting all messed up, so it becomes they start acting out whatever he tells them to do. So it's sort of like he's writing their future. So he tells Wesley and Fred to let loose and have fun at the party, and they start feeling drunk even though they haven't drank anything. And, he tells Gunn to mark his territory, and then Gunn just starts pissing on everything. It's pretty funny. 78 is going to be season 4, episode 20, Sacrifice, where the Angel team is now freed from the spell of Jasmine, but she is slowly infecting everybody in the world, and so they have to take refuge inside of the sewer. What I really love about this episode is the creature design of the previous demon race that has worshipped Jasmine. They have these weird, 4 crab legs, and he's, creating magic out of using flesh, and I don't know, just a very creative, creepy demon design. And I like the Jasmine arc. I know that one of my most unpopular Angel opinions is that I love season 4. The only thing I don't like about season 4 is what they do with Cordelia, but besides that, I think everything in it is actually really fun and really exciting. And so I love the Jasmine arc, and that doesn't bother me. But seeing the team not infected by the spell is better than seeing them affected by the spell, which is why my next episode is season 4, episode 18, Shiny Happy People, because the majority of this episode, everybody is infected with being a devout follower of Jasmine, and the only character that gets free is Fred at the end of the episode, and then she's kind of left on her own. But there's a really creepy aspect of it. And what I found so interesting too is that the new show Pluribus kind of has the same premise as the Jasmine arc of Angel, where it's world domination by essentially world peace. It's like you infect people to the point where they're always happy and positive, and everybody's working together, and it's like a hive mind sort of thing. It's not really a hive mind in Angel, but close enough. You know what I mean? It seems like the ending premise here, when I heard about Pluribus, which is also a really good show, but I was like, I've heard this premise before, and it wasn't an alien parasite, it was a demon in Angel, but it's essentially the same idea. At number 76, I have season 3, episode 21, Benediction. I really like that Angel gets a chance to hang out with his son, and even though the entire time Connor is just manipulating him so that he can learn his fighting style, get in close with the group, and essentially plot his revenge. But I like seeing these very, very rare moments where Angel actually does get to be a little bit happy without getting too happy. And this is one of those. At 75, I have season 2, episode 12, Blood Money. This also takes place when Angel is separated from the group and is doing his own thing. But I love the character Boone that shows up, the demon that wants the rematch with Angel. I love this guy. I wish he had shown up a couple more times. He's just all about battle and honor and just wanting his rematch, and Fake's teaming up with Wolfram and Hart to be able to do it. I don't know. I love Boone. I wish we had seen him again. At 74, I have season 1, episode 11, Somnambulist. This one has Jeremy Renner in it. Yeah, a young Jeremy Renner way before he was Hawkeye, and he plays a vampire that Angel sired that is only ever mentioned in this episode and never again. One of those early, stages of the Angel series where they were fleshing out his backstory before everything was kind of locked down. I mean, you could still make it fit. It just is kind of odd that, Angel sired another vampire, and this is the only time we ever talk about him, and he's not in any other flashbacks of Angel ever. But I think Jeremy Renner does a really good job in the episode. It's fun to see him. There's some effects that they do here with vampire speed that they don't do a lot in the series that I liked, and it's the episode where Kate finds out that Angel is a vampire. At 73, I have season 1, episode 5, Room with a View. This is where Cordelia gets a haunted apartment. Really great Cordelia episode. I have a lot of fun with it. There's just so many episodes I like more, but I don't really have a negative with this episode per se. I mean, maybe the Doyle subplot isn't great, but I love everything happening with Cordelia and discovering the ghost and Phantom Dennis, who, I wonder whatever happened to Phantom Dennis. Who got the apartment after Cordelia, passed away? I don't know. At 72, I have season 2, episode 3, First Impressions. This is when Charles Gunn was still very new to joining the group, and he kind of simultaneously had his own crew of vampire hunters on the streets, and he was also helping Angel out on occasion. But this is where he kind of gets a little bit more integrated in the sense that he and Cordelia has a vision that he's in danger, and he goes with her, and there's a bunch of complications. The car gets stolen, and they have their own little adventure together. So it's a good early episode for Charles Gunn, and I actually really like the dynamic between Cordelia and Gunn a lot, and I like their banter here, and I wish we would have got to see more of that, because as time went on, it became a little bit more of like Wesley and Gunn with their bromance, and then obviously the falling out, and then Gunn and Fred got together. But in the early stages, there was a lot of banter between Cordelia and Gunn, and I really, really like that. At 71, I have season 4, episode 3, The House Always Wins. The team goes to Las Vegas in order to get Lorne, and he is working as a showman where everyone thinks he's just wearing makeup and singing songs, but what he's really doing is he is trapped and being used as a slave to tell people's destinies and then gamble those destinies away. So the Angel team has to rescue him. It's a fun little outing. You don't normally see the team outside of LA, so it's cool to see them go to Las Vegas and have a Vegas casino style episode. It's a good Lorne episode. I enjoy it. At number 70, I have season 4, episode 19, The Magic Bullet, where Fred is desperately trying to get the other characters unaffected from Jasmine's spell. I like the way that she does it. I like Fred front and center. I like when Angel is the first one that she gets to be unaffected, and they have a very, very hard time dealing with it, because despite the fact that the spell is broken, they still remember the feeling of contentment, the feeling of happiness, the feeling of that kind of overwhelming, everything is going to be okay. We'll just worship Jasmine and the world's going to be great, and we'll all help each other. And it's that confliction between free will versus just pure happiness. It's like it's more important to be able to choose than to just kind of be forced happiness upon you, but also having difficulty adjusting to that, where I just felt so good. Everything was great. And now I have to deal with this reality and I have to take down Jasmine somehow. At number 69, I have season 3, episode 10, Dad. This is right after Connor was born, and everybody is coming after him because this is the miracle supernatural child born of 2 vampires, where in the lore of Angel, if anybody happens to be watching this episode that is not a fan, vampires cannot have children because they are dead. And yet there is this mystical birth of Connor. And so everyone's coming to kill him or abduct him or experiment on him. And Angel has to try to do something about it. It's an all right episode. I enjoy it. At number 68, I have season 4, episode 2, Ground State, which introduces Gwen, who basically has electricity powers in this series. Once again, very, very subtly, Angel as a series has kind of introduced a couple of times human beings that have supernatural abilities that are never really explained. But I always like to think the explanation is similar to the Invisible Girl from the first season of Buffy, where if you are kind of in a location that has a lot of supernatural resonance to it, like a hellmouth or something, and you're feeling or thinking a particular way, it can sort of like manifest itself. That's not explained in the episode at all, but that's kind of how I like to think of these characters with superpowers. And Gwen was cool. I liked Gwen. I would have liked to see more of her as well, but I liked her introduction episode. Pretty good. Episode 67, I have season 5, episode 10, Sole Purpose, where this is sort of like the opposite of that Superman comic where they have a creature attached to Superman's chest and he's imagining like a perfect world. Well, they have a creature that attaches to Angel's chest, and it's giving him all of these nightmarish visions about why he is no longer needed, that he no longer has a purpose, and that, he's never going to be a savior of anyone or anything, kind of just fueling the negativity that Angel feels about himself, especially now where he's at Wolfram and Hart, which is like, the establishment of evil. So just constantly bringing him down. Pretty fun episode. You get to see a lot of creativity in the nightmare sequences. And I think this is the only episode that David Boreanaz, that plays Angel, actually directed the episode, which is pretty cool. At 66, I have season 2, episode 19, Belonging. This is where the Draken demon arrives from the Pylean dimension, and so does Lauren's cousin, and it's the beginning stages of the Pylea arc at the end of season 2, which is also an arc of the show that I really like, that a lot of people don't like, but I enjoy. But it's the first one, so this is the one where everything is happening in LA, and you learn that Lauren ran away from his dimension, and it's at the end of this episode that Cordelia gets taken to the dimension. I also love the little scene in the episode where Cordelia is doing this photo shoot at a well, not at a beach, but she's on a set, and it's made to look like a beach, and Angel shows up and kind of like basks in the fake sunlight, and then he also stands up for Cordelia when the director is like rudely commenting about her body and the swimsuit and everything. So good little moment there, and good little kind of like beginning stages of the potential direction that Angel and Cordelia would most likely go. At 65, I have season 4, episode 22, the finale of season 4, called Home, where Lila returns only to give the Angel crew the option of taking over Wolfram and Hart, and if they're willing to do it, and all of their suspicions therein of what they're actually attempting to do, if there's manipulation at hand, which obviously there always is. But what I like about this episode is the reason why Angel decides to do it, because Connor has completely gone off the deep end, and he is a disaster, and he's about to destroy himself and a bunch of other people too. And there's nothing really Angel can do. At this point, you can't talk sense into him. You can't just expect everything to be better after all the trauma he's gone through. So he strikes a deal to give Connor a better life. And in exchange, he agrees to work for Wolfram and Hart. And so Connor has new memories implanted. He's given a new family. And that last scene of Angel watching Connor with his new family from a distance, just knowing that he could never be part of it and walking away, it's a powerful, powerful moment. I actually probably should have this episode a little bit higher, but that ending scene is what sells it for me. And also the scene where Wesley breaks into the file room of Wolfram and Hart and tries to destroy Lila's contract, only realizing after he burns it up that it's back and that she's there forever no matter what. And also very, very tragic. 64, I have season 4, episode 9, A Long Day's Journey, where we have the character The Beast, who is awesome, and he's going around and killing all of these totem characters in order to assemble the device that will blot out the sun. And it's just a fun little episode where the characters are always like one step behind of his next target, and they get Manny and lock him in the panic room, and yet he still dies, and we don't know how that happened yet. And the finale, where there is a little fight with the Beast, which is cool. Every fight with the Beast is awesome, and he eventually does blot out the sun. And it's also the episode where at the end they decide that they're going to have to remove Angel's soul to see if there's any kind of information to defeat him. So very cool. And number 63 is season 2, episode 6, Guys Will Be Guys. This one involves Wesley pretending to be Angel, and he's hired by this mob boss to be a bodyguard for his daughter. But really, he's just trying to protect his daughter before he performs his own ritual to sacrifice her. And it's kind of this like slight middle ground episode with Wesley where he still is kind of a goofy fuck up, but he does have some badass moments, and he also gets with Virginia in the episode, so he's got a little bit of his suaveness going on too. So it's fun, it's comical, but there's also some cool moments in it. Angel has a side plot where he's talking to some guru guy that turns out to be fake, not who he says he is, but yeah, I enjoy it for the Wesley segment. At 62 is season 1, episode 3, In the Dark. This is the early stages of the series once again, and we bring Spike in for an episode, and it kind of is a little bit of a crossover with a season 4 episode of Buffy, where there is this gem of Amara that if a vampire wears it, they're immune to their weaknesses and can go out into the sunlight. And in the Buffy episode, Spike had it for a little bit. It got taken away. And then Oz brings it to Angel, and he comes over to try to take it away from Angel. The only downer of the episode is that they bring in another antagonist character, another vampire that kind of takes the spotlight away from Spike for a while. But it's interesting to see, especially not knowing at this point that Spike would become a main character in season 5. It's really weird to see just one random one-off episode in season 1 with Spike where he's evil, and then he comes back in season 5 and he has his soul. But it's like the only evil Spike episode that we get in the whole show. At 61 is season 3, episode 3, That Old Gang of Mine. I really like this episode, and this is one where Charles Gunn has now been working with the Angel team for quite a while, to the point where he's kind of been neglecting his old crew, and his old crew has kind of reassembled and reestablished itself and are doing their own thing now, and they're doing things very different than when Gunn was in charge, and they're taking down all of these demons that lead them to Caradas, the nightclub, and a lot of the demons in there, Lorne included, are not necessarily totally evil, and Angel deals with the demonic element a little bit more of a nuanced way than Buffy did at first, where there's kind of different levels of evil, right? And there's demons that are kind of good, and there's humans that are really bad in the show. And this gang of Guns is viewing things in black and white. It's like, if they're a demon, they have to die. And Gunn, who was once like that, but not as extreme, now has to kind of like play the middle ground and figure out what he wants to do in this scenario. At number 60, I have season 4, episode 21, Peace Out, which is the finale of the Jasmine arc, where the spell is broken and now the world is in chaos because everyone was just feeling absolute peace, and now they're back to their own ways. And it is one of those moments where it's like, yeah, you saved the world, but you also kind of threw the world back into chaos. It's again, that moral question of like, is free will better to have than just having peace, right? And if you have free will, you're probably never actually going to have peace, but you have the ability to choose, which is important. So good thematic elements happening there, and it's a good finale to the Jasmine segment. At 59, I have season 3, episode 22, the finale of season 3, that's called Tomorrow. And what a tragic episode this is. Now, I like some tragedy. By the way, also when I rank things, I might rank a really sad or really tragic episode very high up, but it's because I just enjoy the drama. It's like this episode is one of those where Connor, the entire time, he was just pretending, and he traps Angel in the box and sinks him to the bottom of the ocean. And I love how bleak the ending of this episode is, because the entire group is just gone. Like, where you had this tight-knit group of characters throughout season 3, and then Wesley, betrayed Angel and he's gone. And then you have Cordelia, who is ascending to another dimension. You have Angel trapped at the bottom of the ocean. And the only characters that are Lorne goes to Vegas, and the only characters that are left are Fred and Gunn, and they don't know where anybody is. And yeah, pretty powerful episode. Number 58, I have season 3, episode 6, Billy. This is where we have a character that Angel had to reluctantly rescue from a torturous scenario in order to save Cordelia in a prior episode, but now dealing with the consequence of this guy being on the loose. And he essentially has this ability to bring out this kind of like rage in men and their desire to assert power over other people, particularly women. And it happens to anybody that he touches, and it even happens to Wesley, which is terrifying. It's our first glimpse, too, I think, of seeing Alexis Denisof, who plays Wesley, doing something different with this character, and a good kind of foreshadowing of like, he can do more with this character than just play the bumbling fool Wesley. He can actually be kind of scary at times, and you do feel very scared. I like that Cordelia, steps up to do something about it. And I think one of my favorite scenes of the episode is when Cordelia talks to Lila, and she's like, Lila gets beat up by Gavin, who was infected by Billy, and Cordelia's like, how are you letting this happen? Like, Lila's the enemy. She's the villain. She works for Wolfram Hart, but she is a very determined and skillful and proactive, like, character. Like she plans things, she plots things, she figures shit out. She figures out how to win, how to rise higher in her line of work and her power and stuff. And Cordelia's like, you let this happen to you? Like where's this queen bitch that I know, you know? So it's like, it's a good episode for Lila as well. At 57, I have season 3, episode 4, Carpe Noctem. This is the one where this old man switches. So there's this old guy in a nursing home, and he's constantly swapping bodies with young, athletic, good-looking men so that he can go have a night on the town and sleep with beautiful women and all this. But when he does this, the young bodies eventually die, and he has to go back to his old body, and then he finds a new host. And he finds Angel, and he switches bodies with him. But since Angel is a vampire, the body doesn't decay, and so he just goes out and just ruins everything. Like, he starts like hitting on Cordelia and Fred, and he starts like making out with Lila on top of the desk, and Fred sees it, and it's just like, this one old dude fucks so much up for the group and makes it seem like Angel's going crazy. And I love the reason they figure out it's not Angel. It's because, oh wait, he was making out with a girl that was not a blonde. Yeah, something's wrong with them. Okay, so this next batch of 3 episodes I have all in a row because I kind of consider them all together in my head. It's a little bit hard to remember like where the episodes actually break off. So at 56, 55, and 54, I have Over the Rainbow, Through the Looking Glass, and There's No Place Like Plurtzglur, which are the 3 final episodes of season 2. I love the Pylea arc. Like I said, I know that a lot of people don't, but I have a lot of fun with it. It's this fun little chance for the series to do something different, get Angel in the daylight because it's a different dimension so that he can be out in the sun. And we have this whole kind of like medieval Dungeons and Dragons vibe going on. We have this this group of rebels that are fighting against the establishment. We have some cool groups of mysterious villains here. We learn that Wolfram and Hart exists in some shape and form in every dimension. That's why it's like an impossible enemy to defeat. Get the Gruselug, Cordelia as a princess, Wesley leading a ragtag group of rebels on a mission, Angel versus Gruselug. I just like all this stuff. These are great episodes. I have a lot of fun with them. All right, and at number 53, we have season 4, episode 1, Deep Down, where Wesley rescues Angel from being trapped in the box at the bottom of the ocean. This is kind of our introduction to what season 4 is going to feel like. The tone kind of being a little bit darker, bleaker. We have Wesley tying up Justine in a closet, and we have Angel returning. And I love Angel's speech to Connor, and I'll never forget the lines of dialogue that says, "We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be." I think that is I think if there's any singular line of dialogue through the series, other than another one coming up here soon, that is the one that really stuck with me the most. And I think was the most important line of dialogue to me growing up, or when I first saw this as like a teenager, young adult, is "We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be." Very, very powerful. At number 52, I have season 1, episode 1, the premiere episode, City of, where Angel has now left Sunnydale. Him and Buffy have broken up, and he travels. He finds his way in LA and meets up with Doyle, who tells him that he is getting visions from the powers that be of people that are in trouble, and Angel seems like just the kind of guy that can help. And a couple of great things about the introduction. It's the first time that we get to see the aesthetic of the series and getting that noir detective style that the series started out with. We get introduced once again to Cordelia and get to catch up with her. And what I really like is that Angel's first mission is a failure. And that's the thing about Angel as a character and as a series, is that there is a lot of mistakes and a lot of failures in his past. Like, obviously, the whole idea of Angel as a character at first is that he's trying to seek some kind of redemption for all of the things that he did as a vampire, all the years as Angelus, and the fact that he's made mistakes and he's fucked up and he's trying to do better. It's about trying to be a better person, trying to make better decisions, and trying to do the right thing in a world that makes it exceedingly difficult to do so. And I think the first episode of Angel really sets up that premise very well, especially since he fails to save the first person he was sent out to protect, and how that kind of influences him moving forward. And the ending of the first episode is so iconic because you think the evil businessman that is also a vampire is going to get away with everything. And then Angel shows up in his office that day, and the guy is so cocky. He's like, listen, you don't know how things run here in LA. I can do whatever I want. And Angel's just like, can you fly? Literally kicks him out the freaking window during the daylight, and he burns up on the way down. Just such a badass Angel moment, and then sets up the differences between this world of established evil and Angel kind of like being the thorn right in the center of it. Great first episode. And right above that at 51, I have season 1, episode 2, Lonely Hearts, which is another fantastic early episode of the series where you have this demon creature that is transferring bodies, but it's doing so based upon this nightlife world. And I'm so glad this show takes place years before smartphones and dating apps and all that was a thing. So, you know, to meet people, you actually had to go out and try to meet people. And Angel, of course, is a very awkward, reserved, and tormented guy. He doesn't have a lot of social skills, doesn't want to be social, and he has to figure out this case of where this demon is and the people it's going into. So he has to go out to these nightclubs and bars and stuff, and he's so out of place and so awkward, and it just works fantastically. And it's a good early episode of the series with just a Demon of the Week vibe to it. At number 50, I have season 1, episode 9, Hero. And yeah, part of me does feel like this episode should be a little bit higher up because of the impact, but overall, I think the episode is just pretty good, but it's the sacrifice of Doyle at the end that makes it iconic. And it's done wonderfully. It's shocking. You don't expect a main character to just die off in episode 9 of season 1, like right at the beginning. But this is so impactful for so many reasons because it begins Cordelia's character arc of passing the visions on to her. It's once again feels like another failure for Angel. It's the first soldier down of the series. And it also shows that this show is going to be unpredictable, that if we can kill off a main character right at the start, you know, where's this show going to go? What can we possibly do? And Angel definitely is the kind of show that never stays the same. You know, it is constantly moving, constantly evolving, constantly changing. And that's kind of one of the things that I like about it. And this episode, the ending, super powerful. At 49, I have season 1, episode 15, The Prodigal. There is a main story here happening with Kate and her father, and it is rather tragic, but the reason why this episode is higher up for me is because we get a lot of backstory of Angel becoming a vampire for the first time. One of my favorite aspects of the series, other than the character development and the themes and all of that, is that we get so much insight into Angel's past, which is something that you never really could get into on Buffy because there's too much of it. You get like one episode of it, but there's just like too much to go into. And in Angel, well, since he's the lead character, we have plenty of time to go into his backstory. So we get to see who he was as a human, as Liam. We get to see him meeting Darla. We get to see him rising from his grave, his first kill, and also him killing his family as his first act as a creature of the night. And I love that stuff. I love the backstory stuff. I love the early stages. We're introducing Darla before she like comes back into the show. So we're getting introduced to how Angel and Darla were together, and get to see his first act as Angelus and why he chooses the name Angelus, because his sister thought he came back to life as an angel. And, that's where it all comes from. So it's basically the origin of Angel is this episode, and that's why I love this one. In 48, I have season 3, episode 2, That Vision Thing. This is where Cordelia is experiencing more and more repercussions from having the visions and having to carry that as a human, and now they are manifesting physically. Of course, it's all a plot by Wolfram and Hart and everything, but really fantastic Cordelia episode, and how she stands up to it all, and how she finds meaning and purpose within having these visions and wanting to help out. And it really showcases how far she's come since the early Buffy days. Like this this is a very, I'd say Cordelia's best season is probably season 3. I'd say the end of season 2, the Pylea stuff, and also season 3 is probably her best stuff. And this is a really great episode for her. 47, I have season 2, episode 18, Dead End. This is the last episode with Lindsay McDonald for quite a while. And what an episode to go out on. Very surprising that this is his last episode. He leaves kind of suddenly. It's not really built up at all. This is just kind of like the episode, but we get a lot of him. He's also one of my favorite characters. I love both Lindsay and Lila, the two evil lawyers of the show. And he's had his hand cut off, and now he gets a replacement hand. But of course, it's like causing him to do harmful things. And we learn that Wolfram & Hart is harvesting all of these body parts and, you know, remnants of the people that they were is lingering over into the people that get the body parts. And it's also Lindsay leaving Wolfram & Hart. He basically says, screw you guys, I'm done. Come after me if you want to, but I'm out. And his whole final scene, because I think this is the episode too, I might be wrong, but they're like trying to choose who's going to be like the new head of the department between Lindsay and Lila. And they have like this, like they're together in a lot of the aspects of the show, but there's also a rivalry between them. And this is kind of the episode where Lindsay's like, Lila can have it, I'm out. And he is out for a while until season 5. At 46, season 1, episode 16, The Ring. Speaking of Lila, this is her first episode. And this is a fun one because Angel gets abducted and thrown into this demon fight club where he's forced to battle while all of these rich businessmen watch and bet on, you know, what demon creature is going to win. So there's like these demons that are being used as slaves to basically go out and fight each other to the death. And he has a chance to get out of it by making a deal with Lila, chooses not to, and tries to find his own way out. It's good. It's fun. You want a nice, like, solid Fight Club style episode of the series. It's this one. At 45, I have season 1, episode 14, I Got You Under My Skin. Now, if you ask me personally, I think this is the episode where the series really starts to find its footing. Season 1, episode 16. I know that's a little ways into the series, but I think by this episode, like, we have the dynamic between Angel, Wesley, and Cordelia pretty well established, and this is a very solid Demon of the Week episode. You're dealing with like the possessed child trope, but then it becomes something a little bit more different than that, where it's like this demon got into this child, but the child basically was like so fucked up and so soulless, the demon wanted out. And so like it's a good little twist upon a twist, and there's like a big like exorcism scene, great moment where Angel has to enter a church and he starts feeling like weak and uncomfortable being a vampire, and then having to do the exorcism like that. So really solid season 1 episode. I think this is where the show starts to really pick up and start to get good. At 44, I have season 5, episode 19, Time Bomb. This is where Illyria, who has now taken over Fred's body, her power starts to go a little bit crazy, and she has this ability to kind of like traverse time a little bit and see different points of time, and it's just kind of going nuts. It's a little bit of a confusing episode because there's a scene in this episode where Illyria kills everybody. She kills Spike, Wesley, Lorne, and Angel. They all die. And then she like reverts back to her previous form in time, and Angel is eventually able to stop that from happening. But when you see that for the first time and Spike just turns to dust out of nowhere, you're like, what the fuck just happened? At my 43, season 4, episode 12, Cavalry. This is where Angelus gets out of his cage and is let loose. Now, I love Angelus, Angel without a soul, his pure evil vampire persona. I wish we had more of it. You know, ever since season 2 of Buffy, I was waiting for another Angelus moment in the series. Season 4 gives us one. It's good, but it's not as good as the season 2 Buffy Angel arc, obviously. And he's not around for many episodes, unfortunately. And I really wish they would have done more with him as Angelus. But in what we do get, this one is pretty solid. For most of the episode, he's still locked in the cage, but he does get out at the end. And this one gives us the big reveal and the big spoiler that Cordelia is not herself, and she is actually some kind of demonic entity. And she ends up killing Lila at the end of the episode, which is incredibly shocking. When I saw this for the first time and she stabs Lila, I was like, first of all, I was pissed because I had grown to really love Lila as a character throughout the course of the show, and I was hoping she would be in more of the show. So very shocking death, but it's up high because of those crazy moments. Like Angelus is there, Angelus gets loose, Cordelia is revealed as the villain, Lila dies. Big episode. At 42, we have season 4, episode 8, Hebus Corpses. And this is our zombie episode of Angel. So we have this character, the Beast, that is going around and destroying everything, plotting to blot out the sun. And what I loved about the first time I watched this is why I love season 4, because of the insanity of it. That's kind of why I love it. There's so much chaos happening. So you have this creature that just beat the ever-loving shit out of all the Angel characters. He feels like a Dragon Ball Z villain. And he goes into Wolfram and Hart, which up to this point, Wolfram and Hart has been the main antagonist force of the entire show. And the Beast just walks right into the building and kills everybody. You know how crazy that? You watch 3.5 seasons of a show where you have one singular antagonistic force. I mean, there's other villains too, but like this is the main one. And the Beast just kills everybody. And then Wolfram and Hart had something in place that like all their employees turned to zombies after they're dead. It's crazy. It's awesome. So in my 41 and 40 spot, this is kind of like the Pylea arc for me, where I kind of just think of these episodes together and it's hard for me to differentiate them. But it's season 3, episodes 7 and 8. Offspring and Quickening, and that's when Darla shows up, reveals herself to be pregnant, and there's a bunch of vampire cults and Wolfram and Hart, and everybody is trying to get this miracle child, and we learn that Darla is feeling emotion, and she's feeling the result of the soul of the child. It's where you learn that the child is human, more or less. It's not a vampire. It's not going to be a vampire child. It's a human child, and it has a soul, and that soul is causing Darla to want to be protective of it and want to nurture it and want it to be safe. So these episodes kind of go hand in hand for me. I kind of think about them together in my head, but I love Darla as a character. She's one of my favorites as well. And her entire arc from season 2 into the pregnancy arc of season 3 is just fantastic. Can't say enough about it. That's good. So I want to say from here on up, we have 39 more episodes to cover. I think all of these episodes are great. I think from this point forward, every episode to me is fantastic. We'll get to like my top 10, which is what I think would be like the best of the best. But I would say from this point forward, I don't really have much, if any, negatives about these following episodes. I think all of these episodes are great. So at 39, I have season 2, episode 1, Judgment. This one picks up after the Angel office has been eliminated at the end of season 1. So they're working out of Cordelia's apartment, and it just has a great little message to it where, Angel got this prophecy that basically said that there's going to be something that happens, some apocalyptic event, and that the vampire with a soul will eventually become human as a reward, or like thinks he would become human as a reward. And it gave Angel some hope at the end of season 1. But what he realizes during this episode is like, it's not about just trying to do as many good deeds as you've done bad deeds, because you can't cancel out all the bad deeds. And it's not about getting a reward. Like that's not the reason why we're doing this or why we should be doing this. It's nice that the Shanshu prophecy exists, but that's not the reason we're here. And he kind of like finds a new reason to keep fighting just because it's the right thing to do. It also introduces for the first time Lorne and Caritas, the demon karaoke bar, which I absolutely adore. Really good season premiere. At 38, I have season 3, episode 1, Heartthrob, which is the premiere of season 3. Another one that I find really, really fun. It just kind of sets us up. All the season premieres are usually generally pretty good. Sets us up into the world once again, reestablishes the characters, but you have this vampire that recognizes Angel from the past and how he was with Darla, and Angel kills his spouse vampire, and he goes out for vengeance, and he's wondering, why are you here without Darla? You didn't really care about her the way that I cared about my girl and all of this. And this is happening at the same time that Angel has just found out about the death of Buffy, and it's bothering him that he can continue forward. That he took some time off. He went to the monastery that was filled with demons, of course. But it bothers him because he feels guilty that he can still be himself knowing that Buffy is gone. And I like that aspect of it. I like that idea that Angel is like, I'm not okay because I'm okay. Like this, I don't feel right because of that. At 37, I have season 1, episode 20, Warzone, which is the introduction of Charles Gunn. And I love Charles Gunn, and part of the reason is he really is kind of like the first original main character of the show. I mean, I know we have Doyle in the beginning, but Doyle gets killed off relatively early, but Charles Gunn sticks around throughout the majority of the show. I like that he's from LA originally. I like that he has a very, very different upbringing than both Cordelia and Wesley at the time. And he brings just a different type of character, different type of personality to the show. I like the idea of having these kind of like street level vampire hunters that have been doing their thing for some time. And, you know, you forget sometimes that this show all started because his sister got turned into a vampire and he had to kill her. You know, it's like he's been dealing with that the entire time. Great introduction to the character. I really love Charles Gunn. 36, I have season 2, episode 7, Darla. Now, this works as a crossover episode with the Buffy episode Fool for Love, but in a very interesting way, in that in the Buffy episode, we tell the backstory of Spike and how he turned into a vampire. And in the Angel episode, we're telling the backstory of after Angel got a soul, what he did with Darla. Like he, at first, when he first got a soul, he tried to still be a vampire. He's tried to still be with Darla. So in the flashback, we have Angel, Darla, Drusilla, and Spike all together as the Fanged Four, as they were called. And they're during the Boxer Rebellion where Spike goes and kills a Slayer, and Angel is spending his time secretly trying to save people. And Darla finds out, and she calls him out. And I believe, yeah, this is the episode where she has the baby and she's like, go ahead and eat it. She's just like, prove to me that you're still Angelus. Like, go ahead, eat the baby. And of course, Angel can't. At 35, I have season 5, episode 18, Origin. This is the one where Connor comes back and we meet the demon that gave Connor all of his new memories and his new family and everything, the sorcerer that changed everything. So Connor shows up at Wolfram and Hart like unexpectedly because his parents bring him there because they notice that he still has all of his strength that he had from before. Now, he doesn't remember his past. He doesn't remember Kortoth or Holtz or anything, but he still has the power, right? And so it's only by happenstance that he's brought in to see Angel, and Angel's just like, what the hell is he doing here? And the prophecy must be fulfilled. He has to kill Sajan. So that happens here. And then we also have Wesley discovering the spell that happened and breaking that spell. But the only thing that pisses me off about this episode, and it's not really this episode, it's just like the show in general not addressing this, is that, Wesley breaks the container that had the spell that gave both Connor and Wesley the memories of young Connor again. But do Gunn and Lorne and anybody else that was around at that time, did they get their memories of Connor back, or did they not because they weren't there? Like, you had to be near the device to get the memory back. So did Wesley tell Gunn about Connor, or does Gunn know about Connor? Like, this is why season 5 frustrates me despite having great episodes, is because there's certain things like not addressing Cordelia's death, not addressing the memories of Connor. Like, do the other characters know about Connor? Who knows? But hey, the episode is pretty good. At my number 34 spot, I have the episode right before that, season 5, episode 17, Underneath, where Angel, Spike, and Gunn go into the holding dimension to get Lindsay, and we see the punishment that he's been enduring, kind of like Prometheus, where he wakes up with this normal, happy life, and then he's forced to go down into the basement where he's tortured by this creature to the point where he's killed, has his heart ripped out, and then every time he dies, he regenerates and wakes back up the next day and then has to experience it all over again. And so they go in to get him out of the dimension. Really, really cool concept and idea. And I love that this is where Gunn, he feels so guilty about playing a hand on what happened with Fred that he decides, because they can't get Lindsay out of the dimension without somebody to take his place, and he offers to take his place, which is a really good, powerful moment for his character. In my number 33 spot is still season 5, episode 21, Power Play. This is the episode right before the final episode of the entire series, where basically you think that Angel might be Angelus. And I do like that as a concept a lot. I like the idea that maybe Angel lost his soul off screen. And maybe he's just been pretending to still be Angel the entire time. I think there's something really creepy and cool about that idea that maybe this is Angelus and he's just been fucking with us in order to get in with Wolfram and Hart. But I would say, like, it's not, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know spoilers. But I would say I think the show does a really good job wrapping up the series in the final 2 episodes. I don't think it's good enough because I wish that we had more time to deal with the finale of the show. But the idea of creating this cult, the Circle of the Black Thorn, that's controlling everything behind the scenes, and Angel deciding to get in with the cult, become a member so that he knows who all of them are, and then one by one, take them all out in one fell swoop, and then just bring Wolfram and Hart crumbling to their knees. It's a great idea. It's just so rushed. The last 2 episodes just fly. It's just like end a series so fast. I just wish we had more time. But the episode itself is really great. In my number 31, I have season 2, episode 16, Epiphany. What a fantastic episode where Angel reached his breaking point at the end of the episode right before this. And he decides that, fuck it, I'll throw everything away. I don't care. He has sex with Darla under the assumption that by doing so, he would lose his soul and become Angelus again. But he doesn't, because he did not feel happiness with her. He did not feel true happiness with her. He felt despair. And since he was willing to throw it all away and then woke up realizing that he's still himself, he has this epiphany of, like, it's not totally lost yet. Like, I can still do this. I love that he just tells Darla to leave. He doesn't bother to try to kill her or anything like that. He's just like, go, like, get out of here. He rescues Kate. And then this has the other profound line of the series that says, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do. The idea being, it's not about fate or destiny or legacy or anything like that. What matters is what we do here in this moment right now, to try to do our best every day, every step of the way, to try to be that better person, right? And Angel, in season 2, he has this whole arc that he's fallen off the deep end. He pushes everybody away. He gets as dark as he can go without turning to Angelus. And this was going to be the moment where I don't care. And then he realizes that he's still himself and turns a new leaf, has an epiphany. Season 5, episode 7, Lineage. I absolutely adore this episode, and it is one of the best Wesley episodes of the entire series. Throughout the entire show, there are hints that Wesley had a pretty rough upbringing and that his father was incredibly strict and incredibly harsh on him, and that's what pushed him so hard to try to become the proper by-the-book watcher that he was when we met him in Buffy season 3. And here we actually see his father. Now, it turns out at the end of the episode, it wasn't really his father. It was a fucking robot or some shit, which I think is so dumb. It should have just been his dad. But that doesn't ruin the impact of the episode for me, because we get a lot of insight into Wesley's past. We see a little bit of the old Wesley in this episode where he starts kind of like stumbling. Or like when he's introduced to his father, he starts to kind of stumble around and bump into things and make mistakes. And it's sort of like it's bringing him back to who he was growing up. But there's the moment where, Wesley's father puts a gun to Fred's head, and Wesley does not hesitate. He just instantly shoots his father to save Fred. Does not care. And it just shows how far Wesley has come, that nothing is going to harm these people that he cares about, especially Fred, somebody that he's been deeply in love with for years. Whether she reciprocates or not, he loves her. And like, you're going to threaten Fred? You're going to put a gun to the girl I love's head? Nope. And just mows him down. I really wish it was actually his father, instead of doing the robot thing that they never follow up on, but still very powerful episode. Season 4, episode 13, Salvage. We get some Faith. Notice I haven't mentioned any episodes with Faith yet. That's because they're all towards the top. I'm going to let you in right now. Any episode with like a lot of Angelus or a lot of Faith, is higher up for me. And this is the one where Wesley breaks Faith out of prison. And I adore seeing Wesley and this new version of Wesley. Like, Faith has been in prison the entire time Wesley has had his entire character arc. So she is not used to this version of Wesley. And this is a point where Faith is feeling a lot more remorseful and a lot more reserved than her previous self, whereas Wesley is a lot more hardened and willing to do dangerous shit at this point to get things done. And so it's kind of like they've completely reversed, and that is such a cool character interaction to behold. And I think in both shows, I honestly believe this. Faith has her best episodes in season 4 of Angel. She does. The best Faith episodes are in season 4 of Angel. And I love Buffy season 3, but I think Faith's absolute best episodes in both shows are the 3 episodes in season 4 that she's in. Season 4, episode 15, Orpheus. This is the final and jealous episode of season 4. Unfortunately, he's had his battle with Faith, and now they are both under the influence of the drug Orpheus. And within that, they're kind of sharing the same dream. And we get a lot of insight into Angel's past here, where Faith and Angelus are kind of watching these memories happen. And we see the last human that Angel ever fed on as a vampire. And I loved this scene because it really bridges the gap between how we see Angel living in the alleyways and eating rats in his backstory in Buffy. It's like, well, how did he get there when he was, you know, kind of semi-normal in like the 50s and kind of normal in the 40s and all of that? It's because of this moment in the 80s where this guy in a diner gets shot and Angel feeds on him while he's dead. And it messes with him. It's like he's gone so long without feeding on human blood. And then there's this one moment where he's just drawn into the temptation and he gives into it. And once again, Angel is a show about a guy trying to do better and making mistakes every step of the way. And recognizing those mistakes and trying to move forward from them. And this was one of those where instead of calling for help or doing something, he just, he fed. And that's what caused him to go back into like homeless Angel mode and living in the alleyways before he met Buffy. So, and this is the episode where we get Willow. Willow shows up and performs the spell. Now, the thing that always kind of bugged me is like, you would think Willow, with as powerful of a witch as she is at this point, would be able to adjust the soul spell and not have the stipulation of Angel getting perfect happiness and then turning into Angelus again. Like, especially since this is the end of the Angelus arc of the show, I feel like this would be the perfect point to just let Angel have a soul permanently. You know, it's like not with the stipulation of you could potentially lose it if you get too happy, you know? Like, you would think Willow would be powerful enough to do that, but that aside, fantastic episode. I have season 2, episode 5, Dear Boy. This is the one where we find out that Darla is back, but she's back as a human. And what places this episode so high up for me really is, well, seeing Angel so distraught because he's been having all the dreams of Darla and she's actually been like causing these dreams to happen. And then he sees her in public and she goes out in the daylight and he's just like, what the fuck? Like, it really does feel like Angel's losing his mind. And then when he finds out that she's human and they have their conversation at the end of the show, Darla wants Angel to turn her back into a vampire. And it's this thing where like Angel was not expecting this reaction. He was expecting that her having a soul and, you know, feeling the guilt that he felt and all that like, you know, something is going to happen here and she's going to get her penance and all that. But she just wants to be a vampire again. And Angel's like, whoa, like this is not the way to do this. And it's a really good kind of confliction between them. I have season 1, episode 21, Blind Date. And this is a very Lindsay McDonald-centric episode. Man, is this a great episode for him. So, I mean, there is a plot line here where these like Oracle children, I think, are going to be assassinated by this blind assassin. So Angel gets to fight a blind assassin and Lindsay helps him out. But man, what makes this episode land so much is the tension of what is going to happen to Lindsay in Wolfram and Hart, because they bring in these mind readers and he knows that he's about to betray Wolfram and Hart, and Holland Manners knows that too. And he gives him this speech about where he wants to be and power and what he could possibly have. And it all builds up to this great scene where Lindsay gets this brand new office and everything. And he was going to leave Wolfram and Hart at this point, but he is so seduced by the power and the influence that Wolfram Hart has, that he goes to the door and you're wondering if he's going to leave, and he closes the door, like fully selling his soul to the devil. And it's a really, really great moment for his character. And the whole time, you know, you're wondering, like, what's he actually going to do? Like, maybe he's going to join Angel's team. Season 3, episode 11, Birthday, where Cordelia, as a result of having all of these visions, is not doing so well, and she almost potentially dies and then gets visited by Skip. And, you know, retroactively, because of season 4, you know, all of this is a manipulation, which kind of ruins it a little bit. But I really do like the episode where it's sort of like a what if scenario, where she basically asks, like, what if I never met Angel? Or he says, you know, what if you never met Angel? What would your life be like when you came to LA? Say you came to LA, and instead of meeting Angel in episode 1, you went and did something different. And then what would your life look like? And she goes into a world where she actually became an actress. She's popular. She has her own TV show. And then she meets Wesley and Charles Gunn, and they're doing the Angel missions, where Angel has the visions, but he's gone insane because of them. And it's like she's drawn towards helping out. She can't stay away. It's like she is compelled to be the person she was meant to be and help out in these scenarios. So whether she has the visions or not, she was going to end up in this life regardless. And so that's when she chooses to become like part demon so that she can handle the visions more. But a really good like what if episode. It's kind of like the Angel version of The Wish with Cordelia. It's like, what would the world be like if this happened? Season 2, episode 11, Redefinition, where Angel has separated himself from the group. This is where he goes off on his own, getting darker and darker in order to get himself to the mental place that he can be to take down Darla and Drusilla. Darla, that is now a vampire again, and Drusilla, and basically builds up to the moment where he sets them both on fire at the end. I like seeing this version of Angel. I'm glad it didn't stick around too long, because I prefer seeing him with the group. But there is something kind of about Angel just being a solo, like, demon slayer vampire that's hunting these other vampires that I do really like. And this episode just gives you that. I have season 2, episode 15, Reprise. This has the scene where, and this is a standout episode in the sense that this is the only episode where we actually see one of the senior partners of Wolfram and Hart, because the senior partners are always mentioned, and they are kind of this like interdimensional demonic entities, you know, that don't exist in our world, so we never really get to see them. But this is where one of them shows up at this Wolfram and Hart event, and then it dies in like 5 seconds because Angel gets the like, it's like the gauntlet or whatever, and like knocks it out of a window. So we only get to see a senior partner for like 2 seconds, but this is the only episode with that. But it has the iconic scene of Angel going in the elevator with Holland and wants him to take him directly to the hell dimension where they are, and he wants to take all of them out. He doesn't care anymore. And he basically opens up the elevator, and it's still on Earth. And he says, this is basically hell. This is Wolfram and Hart. This is the idea that as long as there is evil in the hearts of mankind, Wolfram and Hart will always exist. And it's this very like, and even though he was kind of fucking with Angel a little bit, it still is true, because Wolfram and Hart is an entity that can't really be defeated, because evil will always exist in some shape or form. It's not, it takes the form of like this law firm in the world of Angel, but it's in another dimension. It's in Pylea. It's in this dimension, that dimension. Like it's an all encompassing thing. And so it's one of those fights that you'll never win. And it's about, you know, that's kind of like the core essence of the show to me, is like, it's not about winning the fight. It's about fighting because it's the right thing to do. But this is the episode where Angel kind of reaches his breaking. This is where he has sex with Darla at the end, hoping to lose his soul, because it's just like, what am I supposed, like, I can't do anything. I can't win. I can't bring them down. And he just feels broken. Season 3, episode 15, Loyalty, where Wesley finds the prophecy of the father will kill the son after Connor has been born, and he does everything he can to try to disprove this prophecy, but everything starts coming true. It's where we start to see Wesley really break down, because he feels so separated from everybody, because Fred, who he's falling in love with, has gone out with Gunn, and Cordelia is on vacation, and Angel, he's worried that he might do something and kill his son because of the prophecy, and he's trying to disprove the prophecy. And there's just so much going on with Wesley in this episode, and I love it. He's, if not for Angel himself, Wesley would be my favorite character, and this is definitely one of his best episodes because you just see the lengths that he's going through. This can't be true. There's no way this can be true. Something has to be done. What am I going to do? Season 2, episode 2, Are You Now or Have You Ever Been? A fantastic flashback episode showing what Angel was up to in the 1950s. This is the one where they get the Hyperion Hotel, and that becomes the main location for seasons 2, 3, and 4. But Angel had previously stayed at this hotel in the 50s where he was trying to avoid people and not talk to people, and he ended up helping a girl out, and then she betrays him at the end of the episode. And again, one of those where he has a breakdown where there's this demonic entity in the hotel, and Angel's just like, take them all. I don't care. And the ending of the episode is really tragic too, where he comes back and it's still been feeding off this woman that has not left the hotel since the 1950s, on her deathbed. And she sees Angel again, and he looks the same as he did back then. And it's just a great scene. And I do love episodes of Angel's past and just seeing what he was up to throughout the course of his 200 plus years. Season 5, episode 16, Shells. The aftermath of Fred's death and Illyria taking over her body. We get introduced to Illyria as a character, seeing Amy Acker act as Illyria, which is incredible. She goes from acting as Fred to acting as this demon, and the characters feel so different. It's almost like a different actress is playing the role. It's so different, but Wesley, like I said, Wesley, man, Wesley is my guy. I love that character, and Wesley in this episode is just so good and tragic. The process of him figuring out Illyria, if there's a way to bring Fred back, trying to kill Illyria, doesn't work. I believe this is the episode 2 where he finds out Gunn's involvement in signing the forms and stabs Gunn, and then he shoots Knox immediately, kills Knox. And then you have the ending where Illyria's army is long gone, and she kind of has this moment with Wesley where he agrees to help her only because she looks like Fred, and he's just so broken that he does it. But this is where Wesley's character breaks. This is where there's just no hope for him in the future. He is just so mentally destroyed, and this is the final nail in the coffin. Wesley, from this point forward to the end of the series, he's just a lost, broken man. Season 4, episode 6, Spin the Bottle. I think this is almost the funniest episode of the entire show. So the gang begins to perform a spell to get Cordelia's memories back. The spell goes wrong, of course, as it always does in Buffy and Angel, and all of the characters revert to who they were as teenagers. Now, their bodies don't change. They're still adults, but all of their mentality goes to who they were as teenagers, and it is so fucking funny. Especially, well, number one, we get to see, Buffy season 1 Cordelia again. Her personality goes back to who she was. We get to see Angel act as a teenager from the 1700s. So he doesn't know what any technology is or what's going on. He goes outside. He thinks cars are demons. And then the best thing is seeing Wesley, because at this point, Wesley has, basically turned into this cold, calculated character, this actual rogue demon hunter. And now he's reverted back to season 3 Buffy Wesley, where he's all prim and proper. And it's just the juxtaposition of that is fantastic. Really funny episode. Season 2, episode 9, The Trial, where Angel is trying to help Darla in a way that, I love this episode because he never really had this help, especially when he first got a soul, because Darla was still a vampire and, called him out and all the things that happened with them. But Angel is really trying to help Darla, and not because he wants to be with her again, and not because of anything. He is just trying to do the right thing. But at every step of the way, he gets fucked over. He goes to do these demon trials to help Darla. And at the end of the trials, where he's willing to sacrifice his own life to save her, they're like, oh, we actually can't do anything because she's technically been brought back to life already. So sorry. You just basically tortured yourself for multiple hours and agreed to die, but we can't do anything. Just the heartbreak of that. And then the cameo at the end when Darla and Angel had this great moment in the hotel, and then fucking Drusilla breaks in and turns Darla into a vampire again after all that, after everything Angel went through. Now it's all fucking ruined. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Season 1, episode 17, Eternity. We get a little bit of Angelus in this episode, which is great. And it involves an actress that Angel saves, and then she learns that Angel's a vampire and she wants to become a vampire. So she spikes Angel's drink, which is crazy fucked up to at first, to try to seduce him, to get him to turn her into a vampire. But and this is a weird little element they put in, but I really feel like they just did it to give us an Angelus episode, so I appreciate it for that, is that she drugs him with a drug that's supposed to make him really happy, and it creates this illusion that he's experienced perfect happiness, so he believes that he's Angelus again. He still has his soul, but he doesn't, he's under the effect of the drug, so he believes that he's Angelus. So we get to see him come out, and we get to remind the audience what vampires are really like in this universe, and that most of them, if not all of them, unless they have a soul, are completely evil. And the actress gets to learn a very, very harsh lesson, and Wesley steps up to the plate. A very early version of Wesley, where he's still kind of a bumbling dope, does tackle Angel down the elevator shaft and knocks him out. And so, he's still being a badass even back then. Season 1, episode 22, to Shanshu in LA, the season finale of season 1. Really fantastic. Wolfram Hart calls this demon to the world, where I can't remember this demon's name, but I always thought he was really cool and very underrated. He's got this kind of like eyes wide shut mask on and hood, and he just goes and just does everything that Wolfram Hart couldn't do throughout the season. Like, he infects Cordelia. She's getting all these visions. He blows up Angel's investigations, has a really badass fight with Angel, and it ends with Angel getting the Shanshu prophecy, cutting off Lindsay's hand, and we reveal that Darla is alive. So fantastic season finale for the first season. At number 16 is season 5, episode 8, Destiny. This is Angel versus Spike. This is the episode where they just get to beat the ever-loving shit out of each other for all of the resentment and pent-up rage and jealousy and everything that they've had against each other, because Spike in season 5 is also a vampire with a soul, and since the Shanshu prophecy has existed since season 1, it doesn't specify the name of the vampire, so Spike assumes maybe the prophecy is about him. And they're both led on this wild goose chase to go get this, this special cup that's supposed to be who it's for, whatever, it doesn't matter. What it really leads to is that there's an item that the Shanshu prophecy person is supposed to have, and Angel and Spike get there at the same time. And to decide who gets it, they just beat the crap out of each other. Now, it's all fake and the item's not real, but man, what a if you're just a fan of either of these characters, getting to see a solid, epic Angel versus Spike match makes this just one of the best episodes for that reason alone. At my number 15 spot is season 1, episode 19, Sanctuary. This is the second part of the 2-part Faith episodes of season 1, the one where Buffy shows up. And everything kind of comes to a head in this episode. Faith is willing to change, but she's very hesitant and also still prone to all of the darker deeds that she's done. Angel is trying to help her. Wesley is resentful because she just tortured him. Buffy shows up at the worst possible moment. And you got Wolfram and Hart. You got Kate. Like, basically all the elements of Angel season 1 all converge on this episode, to the point where this probably could have been a season finale also. It's like that big of an episode. But it ultimately leads to Faith agreeing to go to prison and to pay for what she's done by her own choice, because they couldn't hold her if they wanted to because she's super strong. She agrees to do it, and Angel had a big influence in that. Okay, I didn't plan it this way, but my number 14 is the other episode with Buffy in Angel, and it is season 1, episode 9, I Will Remember You. What can you say about this episode, man? Buffy shows up. Angel gets his blood mixed with some weird demon blood and becomes human, and they basically get to be together. And everything is fine and everything is working out great until Angel realizes that, he's not going to be able to help as a human. And so he makes the decision to turn back time one day. And this is basically the last real Bangel episode. Like, if you ship Buffy and Angel together, this is kind of like the swan song of it, because after this, we don't really get any moments with them together again. I mean, he shows up on Buffy a couple of times and you can tell they still love each other, but this is the last episode where they're really together. And the acting, the performances between David Boreanaz and Sarah Michelle Gellar when Angel tells her that he's turning back time and there's only like 1 minute left. Just totally, absolutely heartbreaking. Oh my God. The acting in this episode is unreal. Both of them do such a tremendous job. And it's just such a heartbreaking episode. And I watched Buffy first, and I am somebody that ships Buffy and Angel together. They're my big couple of the series, and just tragic episode to see. But yeah. In the 13 spot, season 3, episode 17, Forgiving, picks up right after Connor has been taken to the Quartoth dimension. And Angel tortures the Wolfram and Hart lawyers to try to figure out where he is, to try to get him back, and completely fails. I believe they take care of Sajan in this episode too. But what makes this episode stand out is the ending, where Wesley is in the hospital with his throat slit, and Angel comes in and basically says, "Hey, I understand why you did what you did, and I want you to know that this is me, Angel, talking to you, not Angelus. Do you understand that?" And after Wesley nods yes, Angel straight up tries to kill him. He tries to smother him with the pillow. And it is like, you get it from both sides. You get Angel as being somebody that, as a vampire would never be able to have a family, would never be able to have a kid, miraculously did have one. And now that kid is potentially gone forever. And Wesley is part of the reason why that happened. I get it. But it's also crazy because you don't really see, like in Buffy, I mean, characters would go evil from time to time and fight each other, but you never really saw a main character trying to straight up kill another main character on the show. And when this happened, when I saw this for the first time, I was stunned. I could not believe literally Angel trying to kill Wesley and almost succeeding. In the number 12 spot, I have season 5, episode 22, Not Fade Away. This is the final episode of the series. And as I said earlier, I do think that they wrap up the story the best that they possibly could within just 2 episodes. And they do a great job with it. There is Wesley's death, which is heartbreaking and tragic. And Illyria saying, "Do you want me to lie to you now?" And it's like the reverse of A Hole in the World, where they each die in each other's arms. And, you have Connor coming back to help Angel out, so it's good to see him again. A lot of the final fights are pretty good. And the final scene, of course, goes, it ends on a cliffhanger, but it pretty much sums up the themes of the entire show, is that this is an unwinnable war, but the point isn't winning. The point is fighting against it, to go down swinging. And to see the final 4 characters, Angel, Spike, Gunn, and Illyria, just facing this endless horde of demons and basically saying, "All right, let's go to work." That is Angel. That is the show. That is the point of the show, symbolized right there. It's just like an endless army of evil and just a couple of broken, beaten down, bleeding out people standing up and being like, "All right, let's go." In the number 11 spot, season 3, episode 13, Waiting in the Wings. This is the ballet episode. Very, very fun, great episode. Like, the plot itself is actually pretty basic, pretty standard. It's pretty much like a villain of the week episode, but you get to see the entire cast going out and doing something different. They get to dress up, go to the ballet. You also have Fred and Gunn getting together in this episode, kind of, and Wesley noticing that. It's sort of like the beginning of Wesley's separation from the group. There's like, first this happens, then there's the prophecy, then there's Angel trying to kill Wesley, and it's like these stages of it, and this is like the first stage of it. And it's wonderfully directed. I think Joss Whedon did direct this episode. You get Summer Glau in there as a supporting cast member, and some cool fight scenes. Angel and Cordelia, it's also building up that relationship. There's a lot going on here. Despite it being kind of a standard episode, there's a lot going on with the characters. And it's one that I'm always gravitated to, and maybe one that I can't quite explain well. It's just something that always stands out to me. Every time I rewatch the show, the ballet episode just really, really stands out. All right, we did it. We made it to the top 10 episodes of Angel. My top 10 episodes. These are all masterpieces to me. These are, to me, the best of the best the show has to offer. in my personal opinion. Number 10 is going to be season 4, episode 11, Soulless. This is the episode right after they remove Angel's soul and he's in the cage at the hotel. And the reason why I love this episode is because the characters are so broken and torn up in their own bullshit at this point that Angel, it's just Angel without a soul, knows how to get under their skin individually. Because you got Wesley in there who's having this awkwardness with Fred that he's in love with, but Fred and Gunn are kind of breaking up, and Gunn killed somebody for Fred, and Cordelia and Connor and all that kind of stuff is happening, and Angelus is just playing with all of them. He has a conversation with Wesley, has a conversation with Gunn individually, and what's great about it is it shows how good of a villain Angelus is without even needing to really do anything. Like, he's in the cage the whole episode. He doesn't get out. He doesn't get out of the cage. He doesn't kill anybody. There's no like big event in the episode, but every character is broken down because Angelus lies with the truth, and he knows all of their darkest secrets, and he knows their insecurities, and he uses their relationship with Angel against them in the episode, and it's all done from behind a cage. Fantastic writing, and probably my favorite, like, there's another Angelus episode in my top 10, but this is probably my favorite utilization of Angelus in Angel as opposed to in Buffy. At number 9, I have season 5, episode 14, Smile Time. Yeah, this is definitively the funniest episode of the series, in my opinion. Why? Because Angel gets turned into a puppet, and he has to fight demon puppets. How could you not love that? How could you not love the idea of your main character getting turned into a goddamn puppet, screaming, "I do not have puppet cancer," and having to Smile Time is like this children's TV show like Sesame Street, but all the puppets are evil and they're like absorbing the life force of children. And there's this one big puppet called Horatio that can't speak and only has a horn for a mouth. So he's always just like, burp, 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 burp. It's just like, dude, I don't know. There's something about this episode that I just adore. I think it's the funniest fucking shit, like, in almost either show. It might be the funniest episode in Buffy and Angel combined. I don't know. I love Smile Time. Now, this one may be controversial, but in my number 8 spot, I have season 4, episode 7, Apocalypse Now-ish. And I know the reason people hate this episode, because it's the one where Cordelia and Connor. I get it. That's icky. It's gross. I hate it too. But everything else in this episode is so epic. You have this apocalyptic event of this rain of fire from the sky. You have the beast that shows up that, like I said, he feels like a Dragon Ball Z. He doesn't feel like a villain that should be from Angel. He feels like a villain from like an anime. You know what I mean? He's just this giant demon that's made of solid rock that's like impenetrable. He's got these giant horns looking like fucking Tim Curry from Legend, and he speaks in this deep gravitas voice. And there is a fight scene in this episode, and it is the best fight scene in Angel and in Buffy and Angel combined, where it's Angel, Gunn, Wesley, and Lauren is there for, he's just there. And all of them fight the beast, and the beast just kicks the shit out of all of them. And it changes the game. Like, this is a moment in the show where, they fought powerful characters before and other demons, but the beast is really the first one that makes it feel hopeless. Like all of them fought together and they stood no chance. Like, Gunn has this hubcap axe that he's had since season 2. The beast just crumples it up and throws it away. Wesley's using the shotgun, does no damage. Angel gets his own weapon taken away from him. He's stabbed in the throat and thrown off a building. It just it feels different. Like, to me, the fight scene in this episode is a game changer, and I love it for that reason. In my number 7 spot, I have season 1, episode 18, 5x5. It's the first Faith episode of season 1, where she leaves. It's kind of, again, a crossover where she was on Buffy, she comes back, and then she goes over to Angel and starts wreaking havoc here. She works with Wolfram and Hart for a little bit, even though she doesn't really care about them. And she tortures Wesley for everything that happened in season 3. And it just has this really heartbreaking moment where she fights Angel at the end of the episode. And really what she's trying to do is push Angel to the point where he kills her, because she can't deal with all the decisions she's made, the people she's murdered, the people she's hurt, Buffy, everything that she's done. And she's just kind of lost her mind at this point. She's broken, and Angel recognizes that. and refuses to kill her. And she just breaks down. She keeps hitting him over and over. She's just like, kill me, kill me, kill me. And he won't do it because he wants her to be redeemed, as he wants for, her and Darla and so many other characters throughout the show. Angel is always trying to see the best and like helping people get redeemed, unless you kidnap his child, then it's different. But love it. Fantastic, iconic finale in the rain. Great episode. Speaking of rain, season 3, episode 9 is my next one, Lullaby. This is the birth of Connor, and just what an iconic moment, man, where they're trying to protect Darla. Everyone's coming after her. Holtz is back, this vampire hunter from back in the day, and Caritas is destroyed. It's blown up, and you have Darla, who's pregnant and giving birth in the alleyway, and because her body and being a vampire, she's not going to be able to do it, so she stakes herself. Her body turns to ash, and the baby is just laying there in the rain. And man, what a powerful moment where Holtz shows up, and you think Holtz is being like, lenient or forgiving, seeing the baby, but really he's just plotting his next move. He's like, this is actually even better. My vengeance can be 10 times greater if Angel has a child, as opposed to just killing Angel. My number 5 spot, season 2, episode 10, Reunion. This is where Darla is turned into a vampire again, and her and Drusilla are running amok, and it leads to the fantastic scene where Darla and Drusilla show up at Holland Manor's house inside of his wine cellar with a bunch of the Wolfram and Hart lawyers, and they're going to kill everybody there. And Angel shows up after trying to... First, he tried like hell to help Darla, and it didn't work. She got turned into a vampire again. He's going to go kill her, and he sees them in the room with all these Wolfram and Hart lawyers, and he's just like, Holland's like, people are going to die, and Angel says, I just can't seem to care. And he locks the door, and he lets all of them be killed by Darla and Drusilla. One of the darkest moments of Angel with a soul, for sure. In my number 4 spot, season 5, episode 15, A Hole in the World. What can you say? This is the episode where Fred gets infected and slowly dies throughout the course of the episode. And it's up high because I think the acting, the performances, and the way that it's done is so well done. Obviously, it's an episode that's really hard to watch. I would say it's probably the hardest episode to watch because you're seeing Fred slowly die throughout the course of the episode, and just knowing that there's no coming back. In a world where characters can get resurrected and shit like that, like, her soul is destroyed. Like, there's no saving Fred. And the thing that's so tragic about it is that Wesley has loved Fred since he first met her, and they get together in the episode right before. So as soon as Fred and Wesley finally become a couple, after all of these years, you kill her in the very next episode. How fucking cruel do you have to be as a writer to do that? But man, they pull it off so well though. And it's probably my favorite acting performance by both Alexis Denisof and Amy Acker, because they just knock it out of the goddamn park. In the number 3 spot, season 3, episode 16, Sleep Tight. The episode where Wesley decides he's going to take Connor away so that the prophecy doesn't come true, and Holtz comes in, and Wesley gets his throat slit, almost dies. The baby is taken by Holtz, and Holtz jumps into the Kortoth dimension, basically a hell dimension in which Connor will be now raised by Holtz, Angel's mortal enemy from back in the day, and there's nothing Angel can do about it. And all of it is partially Wesley's fault, and Wesley is just bleeding out. I just couldn't believe this episode the first time I watched it, that they actually, first of all, I thought they might actually kill Wesley, because they can kill characters on this show. So I thought he was out. And this is really the catalyst for all of his character development moving forward. So this had to happen. But man, like that finale of Holtz jumping into the Kortoth, just brutal. In the number 2 spot, season 4, episode 14, Release. Why is this and my number 2 spot? Well, it gives me so many things that I love. You get Wesley and Faith as this duo, and Wesley, this is basically showing how dark Wesley has become, and in contrast with Faith. And I love the scene where he calls Faith out and says, they go into this like drug den, and they're questioning people about where they've seen Angelus, and Faith just kind of like assumes like, okay, they didn't see it. And Wesley stabs somebody to the wall and says like, I can tell that I know that you've seen Angelus. Tell us where the hell, what you saw and what happened. And, Faith starts freaking out. And there's a point where Wesley's like, oh, so now you're uncomfortable with torture, knowing that she tortured him in season 1. And you're just thinking, holy shit, like this whole dynamic has absolutely shifted from season 1. It's crazy. And it's so seamless too, every step of the way. And of course you get Faith and Angelus. And that is a pairing that I was really excited for, because Faith doesn't show up in Buffy until, after the Angelus segment there. So seeing Faith and Angelus fight each other, and what a good fight that they have, and her plan to like drug herself with the Orpheus so that when Angel bites her, they both get drugged at the same time. But the ending of the episode is Angelus biting Faith with the intent to turn her into a vampire. So that is crazy too. And what would happen if a Slayer got turned into a vampire? Like, how does that work? We don't know. It doesn't happen, but like, the intensity of this episode, Angelus, Faith, Wesley being a badass. There's just so much I love going on here. But ultimately, at number 1, my favorite episode of Angel, season 5, episode 12, You're Welcome. This is the 100th episode of the show, and it really encapsulates everything. It's the only episode of season 5 where Cordelia comes back. I really wish she would have stayed around and just been in the rest of season 5 from here, but unfortunately it's her last episode. But what an episode to go out on. I really do think that despite everything, despite, ruining her character in season 4, I think that they do as much justice as they possibly can with the fact of only having her for 1 episode. You bring Lindsay McDonald back as the main antagonist, so it kind of calls back to that. And you get so many callbacks. You get mentions of Connor, you get mentions of Doyle. It kind of like re-encompasses the entire show and the entire journey up to this point. And every character has a moment, whether it's Cordelia or Spike or Wesley. Everybody has a little bit of a moment to shine. It's great seeing Cordelia back with everybody, and just a great conclusion of Cordelia realizing that she has to go. And we don't know it yet in this episode, but with the kiss, she gives Angel the final vision to help him take down the Black Thorn, which is a great final parting gift to have. And you can see why this being my favorite episode, why We Fight is my least favorite episode, because you go from this, the peak of the series, in my opinion, to just, not addressing Cordelia's death at all. But yeah, You're Welcome, I think I can safely say, is my favorite Angel episode. So there you have it, guys. I have no idea how long this video will be once it's edited down, but I wanted to do a little special treat for you, for everybody that enjoyed the Angel video that I made a few months ago. And since I just finished the series not too long ago, it was time to reassess my favorites. And so now we have an extra long favorite episode list. So that is my list of every single Angel episode, ranked from worst to best, in my opinion. So let me know what you think of my list, and down below you can put your top 5, top 10, top 20, whatever you want to do. Put your favorite episodes down below. Are any of your top 10 in my top 10, or is my list just terrible and your favorite episode is Why We Fight or something? I don't know. Let me know. Anyways, thanks for watching this, guys. I really do appreciate it. Please give it a like and comment. Share it with other Angel fans. And if you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon and channel memberships linked down below. Even just $1 a month goes a long way, and I would really appreciate it if you considered it. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk